All right, guys, what's up? This is our first podcast. Adam here with Maddie and Trey. We are starting this brand new Ball Walk Sports Talk podcast, sponsored by Rocky Top Sports Nation. And we will be doing these weekly, and we'll have some special things for you all throughout the year as far as post-game interviews, kind of recapping games and recapping the season. We'll have some mega pods, have some guests on throughout the year, hopefully get some players or coaches on here as well. But we thank you so much for tuning in. So we're just going to get started right off the bat with recapping this season. It's been a crazy off season. We've had, obviously COVID's affected everybody. We've had a coaching change. We've had quarterbacks transfer out, quarterbacks transfer in, other transfers, Crouch, Gray, Henry T, a lot of different people. We've also seen a change in culture a little bit with this coaching staff. So guys, what have you seen this off season that has really kind of opened your eyes, positive or negative? What are some things that stood out to you all this off season?
Positive, I would say that hearing how happy the guys are to actually be there. Like you heard in different interviews of different players say that they had to treat it almost like the military when the former staff was here, and that they didn't really help them outside of football. They were just kind of on their own after that. And it's nice to see more of a family aspect and everyone really be excited to play and put on the orange for once. I hadn't seen that in so long. Negative wise, I don't really have much. Just that we did lose a lot through the transfer portal, but we also gained a lot through the transfer portal. It gives and it takes away. So I'm pretty excited to see our new guys.
So building on what Maddie said there, we did lose a lot to the transfer portal, and that was kind of the national focus, is just how much talent kind of left Tennessee to go elsewhere. You named a few there with Henry T and Greg Emerson, Daryl Middleton, Eric Gray, Key Lawrence. The list is long, but what a lot of people don't realize, and what myself, I didn't even realize until, after the fact, and I've started previewing the season here, is how much talent we've actually gained through the transfer portal as well that hasn't really gotten that national attention. And I think they're really going to play a big role in what we see in Neyland Stadium this year. And I think the fans have a lot to be excited about. Not getting our hopes up too much there, but that's pretty much been the main thing I've seen, the main, focus.
Yeah, and we have to think about the transfers, and I know it's not just the players on the field, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the new coaching staff and the old coaching staff some today and hit on it throughout the year. But you think about all of those transfers that transferred out. We did just finish 3-7. I mean, sometimes talent can outdo coaching. I know coaching was a big part of it. It was very conservative. There didn't seem to be much of a utilization of players that should and we thought would be utilized. I mean, we saw what Hyatt did, when he got the chance, and then, you're watching 2 or 3 drives and he's off the field and you're like, what's going on? But at the same time, a lot of these guys came in with big stocks. Some were surprised they chose Tennessee, and they had faults and finishing 3-7. I mean, I think if you gave us the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and any of us coached them, I mean, we know Tom Brady really coaches them, but I mean, these guys are good enough. Bama's going to win games. They're going to win a national championship because of who their coach is, but they're going to win games because they have talent, they have depth, they have some of the best high school players. So, but I agree with the transfers in. I think some of those can make a big impact, and we'll probably hit on some of those here in a minute. So first thing is, let's look at some season and MVP predictions. So let's start off with you, Maddie. What record do you have us? You don't have to go through game and score and stuff like that. You can talk about the games you think are toss-ups, maybe that will win and upset and lose. But what is your initial gut reaction on Tennessee's record this year?
Okay, if we're going to be honest, and I know this sounds like a crazy Tennessee fan. They do this every year. I'm not out here saying we're going 15-0. Do not let anyone tell you that. If they do, they're wrong. I mean, it is what it is. But I do think that we'll win 8 games. I think we'll be 8-4. Best case scenario, if all the breaks go our way and we win all of our swing games, we could go 10-2. But I think that we'll go 8-4. The floor is 7-5 for me. Big swing games, Ole Miss, obviously. It's going to be a shootout. Take the over. Florida, I said this on the Megapod the other night, and I will stand by it. We're going to beat Florida. I do not get the Emory Jones hype. He has never once proven to be anything other than a runner. He's a run-first guy, and I haven't even seen him throw a ball. I've not seen him throw one pass in this offseason, and I've stalked Florida's Twitter. So I think that we'll be sitting pretty good there, because you got to think, Milton, I think we all have to agree Milton's going to be our quarterback. Y'all say so?
No doubt.
Yeah. So you got to think, Emory Jones is a guy who hasn't had any real experience. Joe Milton started 2 years at Michigan. And while he may not have produced the best results there, you got to think he played for Jim Harbaugh, who has done well under Harbaugh since he's been a coach at Michigan. Nobody. So I'll stand by the fact that I think we're going to beat Florida. Mizzou, I think we're going to beat Mizzou, because if last year's 3-7 team beat up on them pretty heavily, kind of says something about what their program's in. So we're always kind of their dad. We're going to beat the heck out of Vanderbilt. We do that every year. Georgia, somebody the other night said that they think that we could actually win that game. I just don't agree with that. I don't see that happening. I think the SEC championship's going to be Georgia and Alabama.
All right, so we got 8-4, 10-2 if it swings our way, 7-5 is the floor. What do you think, Trey? Where are you heading?
So I want to go back to, might bring you down to earth a little bit there, Maddie. Do you not remember all the backup quarterbacks we've played that have came out and looked like, number 1 overall draft prospects against us? It's just something in that Florida-Tennessee rivalry. No matter who they put out there, they're just lights out. So maybe, but I'm not predicting that. I got us at 6-6, which, you might say I'm playing it safe a little bit, but I got 4 toss-up games here. I got Pitt as a toss-up game that I have us losing. Missouri as a toss-up that I have us losing. Ole Miss as a toss-up that I have us losing. And then Kentucky as a toss-up that I have us winning. So those are 3 games there that I say are toss-ups that I have us losing. So if either of those go, the other way, I could definitely see us getting all the way up to, like she said, 8-4 if we win all the toss-up games. But I truly think that, when it comes to the games we should win, I think that this coaching staff will have us ready to go. Unlike former coaching staffs, I truly believe that Heupel wants to be here and wants to coach these kids. And I just, I really don't see us going through the same thing that we went through with Pruitt, similar to the Georgia State thing there. So I know we're going to get into previewing Bowling Green a little bit later, but I got us winning that one. And Tennessee Tech, South Carolina, Kentucky, South Alabama, and Vanderbilt. Those are 6 wins.
All right. I'm torn because, part of me likes to look first at the guaranteed wins, and as a Vol fan, Georgia State, we can't think anything as a sure win, but I look at Bowling Green, Tennessee Tech, South Alabama, Vanderbilt, South Carolina as we should win those games. I mean, there should be no excuse unless Vanderbilt or South Carolina just come out and show something crazy and start beating everybody. I don't see that happening. we should win those 5 games. Then you look at Pitt, you look at Kentucky, you look at Missouri, you look at Ole Miss. And I don't think we win Ole Miss. I think they're a little more structured. I think they're a year ahead of us. I think we want to be kind of what they were. I mean, I watched some of their games last year just to see. I mean, even when they lost, it was exciting. And I think that's what this fan base wants. I mean, win or lose, you don't want to sit there and see run up the gut, 3rd and 10, and Garantano's throwing, a 3-yard route, on the sidelines where there's no way the guy's going to get up the field unless he just, completely, makes a 360 spin. And I mean, we want to see excitement. We want to see kind of what Ole Miss did. I don't see us winning that game. The Pitt game is going to be big. I think once we get to the Pitt game, hopefully going in, they're 2-0. I think that's going to be a big game changer. If we come out and play well, some of those swing games might happen for me. But, I definitely think that I think we can beat Missouri, and I think we can beat Kentucky. But I also, with the excitement of the offense, we're going to beat people under Heupel that we shouldn't. But until our defense gets better, we're going to lose to people. There's going to be games like the Ole Miss game where we're going to lose 58-55 or something like that, because our defense can't handle it. If our defense overperforms, that's a big thing. So I'm going to stick us right now at 7-5. I think we win the 4 we should. I think we beat Pitt to get to 5. And then I think either a Kentucky or, a Kentucky or like a Missouri, we kind of upset, and that puts us at 7. So I'll go with 7-5. So speaking with some of these guys, what are you guys thinking on offensive? Let's start with offense. Let's look at a player that we think is going to be the most important player. They may not have, I guess if we want to, we can talk about who will have the best stats, but who is going to be that one player that you think is going to be essential for the Vols this year, and you could really see them making a difference on the offensive end? What do you all think?
Obviously everyone's going to say quarterback, but I'm going to be a wild card here, and I'm going with Keon Evans. I think he's going to bring something really, really good that we haven't seen since Alvin Kamara was here. And from everything that I've read and heard from inside and outside of the program, everyone's really high on him. And it was a really big pickup for us to get. So I'm going with Keon Evans.
All right.
Yeah, I like that pick. I was really torn between him, actually, Jalen Hyatt, and who I'm going to pick, who's the entire offensive line. If you look at last season, they were picked to be one of the best in the SEC and even like a top 10 O-line in the country. And we all know they didn't perform that way. So I really, truly believe that if they did perform, up to par, how everyone expected them to, it could have been the difference in one or two of those games last year. So I think this season it's going to be very detrimental to how this offense performs, and how and how we do, what reflects on the scoreboard, how your O-line plays. So if they can elevate those guys to their potential, I think that's going to be your offensive MVP this season.
Good choices. I had both of those down, and I'm kind of torn between two. Part of me wants to say, I'm torn between the two Jalens. I want to say Jalen Wright, even though he's third on there, I think his speed can be a difference maker. I love Evans. I love Small. I think those guys can really, be interchangeable. You have a guy who is very quick on the outside. You have a guy who's better in the passing game. Looking at Evans, that picture of his legs, just massive. That guy's going to be hard to run down, and it's not like he's a slow back. He's not a Jerome Bettis, get you the 3 yards you need. He can get out to the outside. Part of me wants to say Wright because I think he can be a difference. I just don't know if he'll get enough carries. And it's not like a Kamara where he's going to be underutilized. There's a lot of mouths to feed, and we saw that with with T. Hodge announcing that he's, transferring. He was around fourth or fifth, depending on how much they value Beckwith. But I'm going to go with Hyatt. I think this offense is just tailor-made for him. We saw what he did last year. And also, I want to come in here with a Jack Luttrell, White Lightning, just tweeted out a bunch of stuff that he's just happy to be a Vol and stuff. Got an update from VolQuest. So it's just said a new commit, but he's been committed for a while. So Hubs might need to correct that. But I think we saw what he did last year in moments and times where he was utilized correctly. And I think that was one of my biggest beefs with the offense. Didn't talk that we ran Garantano out there no matter what for a long time, but up there at the top was Hyatt. I mean, I felt like the guy was, anytime he got in there, he was beating people. And I don't care if you're fresh, if you're beating people off the field, you deserve to play. And I think this offense is made for him. I think Heupel's going to get him going. I think he'll be a big difference maker. He's the one guy, maybe outside of Cade Mays that I could really see making it to the next level in the future and making a difference. I mean, he's built like a tank. He's super quick. I mean, if the dude can just go up and, he can do a lot of things. And I think now that hopefully we have a staff that will utilize him, we have a quarterback who can get him the ball. I think he'll be a big difference maker. So I'll go with Jalen Hyatt. So let's shift to the defensive end. We've seen a lot of big players transfer out on the defensive end. Some difference makers, Henry T. We mentioned, Middleton, Emerson, guys like that. We saw some guys, go to the NFL. Bryce Thompson went undrafted but went there. So who are some guys that you see making a difference, and who's the one person you think is going to be critical to something we're really going to need this year if we're going to compete, which is at least a decent defense to keep you in the game? So who do you all have as defensive MVP?
For me, I was stuck between my guy Byron Young. I've heard nothing but good things about him. He's going to be a stud. But I will go with the one that I was the most excited for us to land, Juwan Mitchell. I cannot stand to see another slant across the middle. Please, all I'm asking for you, Juwan, please cover a slant, which I know based on watching his film at Texas, he looked a lot better than Henry T. And Henry T is out here first team all SEC predicted. And supposedly, I don't know how true this is, but supposedly he's been running with the twos at Bama. So I don't know, but my message for you, Henry T, is when you play us, you still have to cover slants there. And I hope we exploit you. But yeah, I'll say Juwan Mitchell, you're my guy. I'm riding with you. I'm expecting really big things.
So yeah, I'm really excited about Juwan Mitchell too. I've read nothing but what a leader he is, and he's just very vocal in the practice room and in the locker. I mean, on the practice field and in the locker room. And that his play, he pretty much just backs everything up with his play out there. So, but I went with a guy who showed some flashes last year, specifically early in the season, Tyler Barron. I think if he can build on what he started to show at the beginning of last year, and this coaching staff is able to, continue to develop him, I think that, the Vols could get what we've really been lacking for some time is a true pass rusher, like an every down pass rusher, and you can line him up in multiple spots. That's another thing. We still don't know what kind of base defense that Tim Banks is going to want to run. I assume it's going to be more of a 3-4 or 3-3-5 with the lack of depth at the linebacker position. But, even still, Barron's going to be lined up on the line of scrimmage at the linebacker position. Typically weak side is what I've been seeing him running at. But I think if he can really be a every down pass rusher, I think he's going to get home a lot and make some big plays.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think those are two excellent choices. I think Mitchell, I agree with Maddie. I think he was the biggest impact. And obviously, Milton is there. We want, Milton to be, what Milton should be. But, like we said, with the defensive end, we've got to make sure on the defensive side of the ball, we have a leader. And Henry T was that guy, minus the cover and the slant, which never seemed to get better for him or anybody. But I think Mitchell he's been a great vocal leader. And I definitely think Barron is he showed flashes. I think a guy like Byron Young. So I wanted to say Alontae Taylor, and I think I'm going to stick with him. And part of me wanted to go kind of like Trey did with the offensive line. I want to go with the defensive line because I think we can all agree Garner is an absolute menace of a coach, can recruit, can really develop players. I think he's going to be huge for our D-line. I'm just not quite sure we have the guys right now that we need on the D-line. I hope that he can really develop them and get them to compete. We're going to need a lot of like Trey said, pass rush. But one of the things that irritated me is we heard all about how Pruitt was this defensive whisperer, how he was working with the defensive backs. He was right there, like letting Jim Chaney kind of run the offense, which then by the end of it, we heard that Pruitt was micromanaging everything. And, I don't think a defensive mind like him, who's never been a head coach, has anything to say to Jim Chaney about offense. I mean, let's be real. You can be a CEO of a business and not tell your employees, this is how you make French fries at McDonald's. And they're like, yes, I've done this for 10 years. You sat in your office and you not been here. I have been here. And I think that's kind of like how it was with Pruitt. And I think that rubbed people the wrong way. We saw coaches leave like after the first game. I mean, it was crazy, but the defensive backs did not improve at all. And I think that was frustrating. And I think Taylor has been that vocal leader. I think we've seen the talent since he's been recruited. We wondered, will he be a receiver? Will he be a defensive back when he came out? He's got all the tools. He just needs somebody to develop him, and hopefully we can get that out of him because we're going to need, if we're going to put up points, people are going to either run the ball down our throats and try not to give us, a chance to score, or they're going to go right back with us and say, well, if you can throw on us, stop us because you have no secondary. So, hopefully that'll change for Taylor this year. I apologize to special teams. I don't know if we're going to pick a special teams MVP. I'd probably go with the long snapper, but for time and stuff, we'll move on and look at the Bowling Green game. And just a couple stats here, and if you all want to throw anything that you've seen out there, just a little preview that I've done some research on Bowling Green. So last year, Bowling Green was dead last in the NCAA in rushing defense. They allowed 326 yards, the only team to allow 300 yards or more on the ground. I think the next one was like 40. Behind them, they were like 282 or something like that. Their offense scored 11 points a game. Their leading rusher actually had only 295 yards on the ground. Their other big time rusher that they thought was going to be good transferred to Northwestern. They lost multiple O-line starters, receivers. They did gain a wide receiver transfer from Washington and a tight end from Michigan State. Their quarterback last year, their leading quarterback, had 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. And I believe they only played 5 games last year because of COVID, if I was looking at it right. 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. He's their returner starter unless the quarterback transfer from Syracuse, who has never taken a snap in college, starts. So you're either going to get a guy who 1 to 6 on touchdowns and interceptions, or a guy who's never taken a snap. Their defense, 3 of their 4 top tacklers transferred. Their best edge defender is gone. They do have a middle linebacker that led them in tackling. They said he was pretty good. Bowling Green threw for 712 yards in 5 games with 1 touchdown through the air and 7 picks. So another quarterback must have gotten put in and decided to throw to the other team. And this is the last big stat, and I'll let you all kind of talk about what you hope you see. Going back to 2019, in 6 of the last 8 games, the quarterback has thrown for under 40%, completed less than 40% of his passes. In the Scott Loeffler era, their coach, their offense has thrown 10 touchdown passes with 32 interceptions. 10 touchdown passes in the last 15 games and 32 interceptions. The 2018 team before he got there had 29 touchdown passes to 13 picks. So we're seeing a team that likes to run but can't. We see a team who cannot stop the run at all and wasn't really great through the air on defense. But when you're allowing 326 yards rushing, who is going to throw? I mean, let's be real. So we've all picked Bowling Green to win. Excuse me, just kidding. Bowling Green is a win that week. We did not pick Bowling Green to win, so don't tune out. What are some things that you all want to see happen? And what are some things that you hope that we can kind of show that will motivate us for the next couple of weeks going into Pitt and Florida in a few weeks?
Things I want to see happen. Number one, I would like to see all 4 of our running backs. I want to see D. Beckwith possibly in a goal line package type thing. I think with his height and his size and the way he just is a head down hard runner, kind of like a Derrick Henry type back, would really like to see that. I want to see some ride on the field. And of course, I want to see our top 2 backs that we all know and love. They're going to be good. Defensively, as I said earlier, please show me that you can cover the middle of the field, please. That's all I need to see. I'd also like to see some strong safety play. I want to see some good Danico Slaughter moments. He is a guy who I really bought into last year, and I'm still kind of mad at the former staff for throwing him straight into the fire and having him go up against Shaw Smith first game. And then you look at the rest of the season, he didn't really play there at all the rest of the season. What's up with that? So I think he's going to be really, really key for us as well. And I'd like to see how he's grown. Also, special teams is something that we haven't really talked about. Chase McGrath, he's a pretty decent kicker, and I'd really like to see some 30, 40-plus yard field goals. But also, I feel like Coach Heupel's the type of person who, if it's like even like a 4th and 5, he's going to go for it. And I like that. I'd like to see us go for it on some 4th downs, maybe show some just different types of sets offensively and just see what works the best. And hopefully, stat-wise, I'd like to see over 400 yards of offense.
You have a score prediction?
Score prediction, say we win 55 to like 3. They're pretty bad.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So I think again, crossing my fingers here, but on paper, it's a really good matchup for Tennessee. As you were saying, they're not a very good offensive team at all. They want to run the ball, but they just can't, and they don't put up a lot of points. So really that kind of plays into our strength. Well, not really our strength, but just where we are right now on the defensive side, still trying to find our identity and, just really rebuilding from the coaching staff up on that side of the ball with all the transfers and whatnot. So that being said, I want to see us just take care of business. And I know that might sound cliche, but I truly think if we just show up to play and, don't make any boneheaded mistakes, limit the amount of penalties and, hopefully get off the field with no injuries at the end of the day. Those are 2 things mainly that I want to see. But also it kind of plays back to who I wanted or who I said was going to be our MVP. I want to see our O-line and how much they've improved over the offseason. That's the number one thing I'm going to be looking for. Can we move the ball on an inferior team? Can we just pound the rock when we want to? Can we hit them over the top when we want to? Can we do what we want with an inferior team? Because that's, that goes back to being able to beat these teams on this schedule that we all think should be wins. It's going to play back into that. Can our offense continue to move the ball and sustain these drives? And then I want to see all the quarterbacks. I think Milton's going to be the starter. I think he deserves it. He definitely looks the part. But at the same time, I want to see what those other guys have to offer. Obviously, we already know Harrison Bailey, he's a baller. But really, at the end of the day, everything I've seen on that guy is just that he hasn't really taken that next step. He hasn't shown that he's been able to progress. So, he might be a gamer. We all know JG wasn't. Maybe Bailey's the opposite of that. And maybe that's just what he needs to show this coaching staff, especially given the opportunity. If Milton goes down or he's not playing the best, we're going to need that guy who you can just put in there and he's going to play lights out for you if need be.
So what's your score prediction?
I got Tennessee 45-13.
45-13. All right. I've got similar there. I'm going to go 48-10. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think if they're going to get a late kind of just cheap touchdown, I know they're bad. The hope is they don't score on your first team. And honestly, they probably shouldn't score on your second team. But if we're rolling out there, if we're putting Harrison Bailey as the third string or even Hooker as the third string and we get to a blowout, they're not going to be throwing the ball much because, you don't want to. I would love to put, a double, 50 burger on somebody and throw up 100 points. But, if it's a blowout, we're, second half, we're not going to be doing that. You're going to see hopefully D-Beckwith get some carries, see what he looks like. That tall guy coming at you with that speed and power. We'll see what he has. Give Jalen Wright some runs, see what he can do in the backfield there. But I think, like both of you all said, we need to correct some things, but we don't need to be in a battle. We do not need to be going into halftime anywhere within 2 or 3 scores. If you're up 21-0 at halftime, you can live with it, but you want more. You're like, you got to put your foot on the pedal and you got to go. If we're in this, 17-13 battle or something like that, we're going to start having flashbacks to that game. So I think you're going to see us. I think you're going to see us go for it early. I think, part of me wants to say Heupel's going to be conservative and not show anything till Pitt. I don't think he's going to show anything crazy, but let's be real. And I saw somebody on Twitter that said, I don't think, as bad as Bowling Green's defense is, we're going to run the ball on them. And I highly doubt we're going to get any of the fast-paced throwing down the field things. We've got a brand new coach and a lot of new players. It would shock me if we just ran the ball every single time because we're trying to get better as a team. This is their first big action. We've been during a pandemic. We're going to throw the ball. And let's be real. If Jalen Hyatt is lined up against somebody and he beats them down the field, what is that showing to anybody as far as philosophy or play? Everybody knows Hyatt can do it. He did it. Was it Surtain or somebody at Bama that he just flat out beat? He started in the slot, cut out to the left, looked like he may just kind of go to the sidelines, and he cut up straight up the field. And Bama's secondary had no idea. He was beat. And luckily, for some reason, it was a miracle that the throw was there. I expected it to go at least, 20 yards over his head. But it was there, and, we're going to throw the ball. The hope is that by halftime, you just say, let's get these backs in, let's get these linemen some playing time. Let's just run the ball up the gut and let's just and they'll beat them that way. They should. You have Harrison Bailey in there with D-Beckwith at running back, and you give, Walker Merrill, who may get more time than we think, put him in at receiver, put in some of these, Callaway, Holiday, Tillman, some guys that may not play as much over, probably Hyatt, Peyton, Jones, those guys. I mean, they'll get reps if we're going 4 or 5 wide receiver. But I'll go 40, 48-10. I think 48-10 is, hopefully we're looking at a 50 burger, but I think we're going to be close and not quite get it. The fans might boo if we get to 48 and we don't put up the 50 burger. Of all fans, if we're up 48 to something, if it's 48-45, yeah, but if we're doing well, so we all pick some blowouts. Hopefully we can do that. So now we're going to move to kind of towards the end. We've got 3 things left for you all. Something that we've decided, Maddie brought it up, and I think it's a great idea. Is we want to just kind of highlight a community guy of the week and someone who's been involved within the community, may or may not have a huge impact on the field. And we've given our MVPs for that, but just talking about somebody who does a lot off the field. And this week we've chosen Tennessee defensive lineman Matthew Butler. A few months back, he was named to the Werfel watch list. And that is basically the award given out every year to the NCAA's Community Servant of the Year. They kind of cut it down throughout the year until you get to a final few people to choose from. On the field, I mean, he's been a big part of Tennessee the last 2 years. 88 tackles, 6 for loss, 4.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups, a forced fumble. But off the field, he's done some great things. He's been on the SEC academic honor roll. He's, every year, 4 years, I think he was right at or close to around a 4.0 GPA. But he actually went on a trip to Rwanda, working on developing that and making a difference with social change. He's somebody who, off the field is making an impact within the Knoxville community, but also in different parts, in his hometown and, Rwanda. He's from Raleigh. He's done a lot of things for schools and helped out the North Carolina area there. He's added a bunch of awards. He's one of the SEC's top scholar athletes. He's got a postgraduate scholarship. He's a nominee for the H. Boyd McWhorter Student Athlete Scholarship, which is given to the top male and female, athletes as far as scholarly. So he's done a lot of great things for his community. Do you all want to comment any on what you've read or what you've heard about Matthew Butler? Because it seems his teammates love him as well.
Yeah, I'll say if anybody wants to read the article that UT Sports wrote about him and the whole watch list, what the trophy does and everything he's done in his time at Tennessee, go to utsports.com. It's there. One thing I love about our university is the Ball Leaders Academy that they do every year. Butler's been a part of it. I know Lante Taylor's been a part of it. It's great. I love seeing them go not only in our local communities, but overseas to places that maybe children can't read or it's just a impoverished country. They're actually making a difference everywhere. And doing that while wearing the power T on your chest, it really does just mean more.
You guys touched on a lot of, Matthew Butler off the field, and I'm just going to add, I think he's going to show up to play and play in a big way for the Vols on the D line this year. And he's kind of been in the offseason, at least kind of the spoken leader of that group. And he's just been giving a lot of praise to all those guys in the room and just continuing to improve and talking about what an improvement that Rodney Garner's been. And that's just something you really want to see out of your veteran guys, being great role models off the field as well as on the field. So shout out to Matthew Butler for sure.
All right, so we'll do this weekly. So week 1, Matthew Butler, and this, on one side, it was an easy pick because of what he's done, but it was a hard pick. And as Maddie said, with these ball leaders, we have a lot of people. We will highlight them throughout this year. If you all have anybody that you've personally seen, I know we on Twitter we have a lot of community in Knoxville and the surrounding areas. If you've seen a ball athlete that's really made a difference in their community, send us a message, hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to talk about what they do. We love to talk ball sports. We've all been lifelong ball fans, but it's different for somebody that can make a difference off the field and be that community leader. So now we completely shift gears and we get into probably one of our favorite parts before we pick the games. After talking about someone who's made a difference in the community, we're now going to go on to someone who has done the complete opposite on Twitter. Now, this has nothing to do with ball players. We're not going to sit here and bash any ball players during this segment. We might earlier, but we'll try to calm down. Just please don't throw a 3-yard pass on 3rd and 10, Joe Milton, please. And we will not bash you. If you throw it over his head, it's okay. I don't want it. 4th and 7 does nothing for us. Okay. But we're going to highlight what we like to call the Negaball tweet of the week. I'm going to start this one off with a tweet by a good Twitter person to follow if you love negativity, which is one of our favorite negative accounts in Balls Picks. It was down to 2. One, he talked about the lights and gimmicks and how we're getting all these lights and how that's the only way we can recruit. Buddy, we just went 3 and 7. We've got to try something, okay? We're not going to hand out McDonald's bags with cash out to people like your savior of last year, Jeremy Pruitt, did. We've got to try something. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Lights, if you don't like them, that's fine, okay? Stay home. Don't go to Bristol Motor Speedway's lights. Don't go to Dollywood and see lights. Stay at home, okay? But if recruits want to see that, players, that's fine. But the one I want to highlight is this. It says, somebody saw a picture of a player that's last name was Likely, and it had the number 4 under it. And the caption, I think it was one of our favorite people as part of the nation, Down and Dirty. We're going to give him a shout out. But he put on there, how many games would Jeremy Pruitt win this year if he was coach? And then you saw the picture, Likely 4. Balls Picks had this to say, funny, that's exactly how many wins Heupel is getting projected. I want you to think about that, projected. Pruitt beat the brakes off of Mizzou in 2020. Mizzou is favored over UT in 2021. So there's 2 things that stick out to me. One is Heupel is getting projected. We've not played that game yet. No one in the SEC has taken a snap yet. We know nothing about this season. Second thing is favored. Yeah, we're going to talk about games. We're going to go through and favor all these games. We've talked about our schedule. None of us know what's going to happen. None of us know what's going to happen. So we're literally going off of something that's already happened, beat the brakes off of Missouri, to something that's projected. The guy loves Pruitt. Okay, you can love Pruitt. Don't put down Heupel. Heupel has done nothing yet. He's recruited. He's been a family guy. We've talked about that. Players look like they're having fun. Now, they may go 0-10 this year, but we don't know that. Why are we going to be negative about something that's projected? Okay, it's just a bunch of people, ESPN can make their predictions. SEC Nation can make their predictions. Tim Tebow and, all of them can sit there and make their predictions. They don't know, 1, how any team's going to look. And 2, even if they've seen them play, you don't know who's going to show up. Don't base results or compare results off of projections. If we lose that game, then you have a battle. You can go back and you can prove that. You can show that. Don't be on there breaking down somebody who has yet to step on Neyland Stadium in a meaningful game yet. We don't know what's going to happen. So calm your horses, Jeremy Pruitt's burner account, and we'll be all right this year. Let's be a ball fan and not a mega ball fan. So, Maddie, what is your tweet? I'm sure it's going to be something completely different than Balls Picks. It's got to be.
Yeah, it is actually. I'm just kidding. Congrats, Balls Picks. You suck. Quite honestly, you suck. So a guy that I actually really do like to read, David Ubben, he writes for The Athletic. I'm sure all of y'all are very well aware of who that is. He recently went and interviewed six or nine, I think six, high school coaches in the Nashville area that run pretty powerful programs. And of course they were all, names redacted. You don't want to be a coach and like bash somebody else. But one thing that one coach said that really stuck out to me was how the former staff, Coach Pruitt especially, he wanted nothing to do with the kids in state. And he told one of those coaches straight up, you cannot win with kids from Tennessee. I mean, I'll agree with that. I'll say you can't win with just kids from Tennessee, but you have to recruit well in state too. Because we have some great kids that come out of Tennessee. Trey Smith, for example, where did he come from? The University School of Jackson. Shout out West Tennessee, baby. But my guy Balls Pick sees that article and then decides to say, sources say the reason that Heupel's staff is trying to connect with local Tennessee high on coach football. First of all, who are your sources besides the people inside of your head? And second of all, Jeremy, please calm down. Like, it's too much at this point. Then he keeps going. It says, if I am wrong and Tennessee goes 8-4, I will delete this Twitter account. I swear, there's no freaking way though. Boy, if we don't do anything right this year, please just go 8-4. I want to see this guy just wiped off the face of the earth. He also said that it does include a bowl game win in this total. So if we win 7 games and then go to a bowl and win that, we did our job. That's y'all's job this year, boys. Win 8 games so he can be gone forever. Because I promise, if you just get bored and want to see complete garbage for fun, which I enjoy doing, yeah, go and follow @BallsPicks on Twitter. Pretty interesting type stuff. Pretty fun.
All right, Trey, are you gonna complete the trifecta, or are you gonna go with someone else?
I got somebody else. I kind of got a double whammy here of negative balls. So it's an actual whole account. The Twitter is @HeupelFire, and his name is Fire Josh Heupel. We have yet to play a game with Josh Heupel as our head coach. Tweets out every single day. Fire Josh Heupel, day 210. Fire Josh Heupel, day 211. Fire Josh Heupel, day 212. So then a guy actually retweeted that, TK Boyce, and said, it's got a GIF on it and says, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve. And I think we see a lot of that with a lot of negative people on Twitter, whether it's Tennessee sports or just anything, just that negative mindset. They want to be the first to say, when things do burn to the ground, like, look, I told you this was, we're Tennessee fans. You should have known this was going to happen. So I think everyone's just trying to be ahead of the curve and just kind of be the first to say, I told you so, if it doesn't go the way that we all hope it does. And I don't know. It's just, let's give the guy a chance, and I know we say that every time we get a new coach, but it's not fair. Like you were, all these are projections. View on a coach off of the projections of people who don't know how they're going to perform. So let's just, wait till this coming Thursday and take it one game at a time and judge him off that.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. Fire a guy who is yet to even coach a game. Yeah. You could say, I don't think he's going to be right. I don't think he's going to be good, but we're going to hoist a trophy at the end of the year, no matter what we do. And hopefully that trophy, a lot of us want it to be a national championship. I'm going to put that at number 2. Number 1 best trophy is going to be the Get Balls Picks off of Twitter. And the most realistic is going to be the Champions of Life trophy. I remember I was at that game at Bristol and was holding all that stuff up, and they put the memes of the life picture, and I was down there, and in that moment we thought everything was going well, but I don't know what we became champions of, but it wasn't football and it wasn't life. So
It was cheating.
all right.
Honestly, cheating.
Yeah. I mean, I can get that as being gimmicky and cheesy. I don't think lights for thousands of 102,000 people in the stadium is going to make a difference. Bama did it. It was really cool. Bama's won multiple national champions. Kind of want to tweet at Balls Picks and be like, go after Nick Saban. I mean, the guy does not need anything. The guy could literally be in a coma and wake up and still have a top 3 recruiting class. The guy's still going to get to he's going to get his natties no matter what. He didn't need that. It's not a gimmick. It's for kids. It's for fans. It's a better environment. It makes people want to come. It makes people watch it on TV and say, whoa, that's really cool. All right, so we're going to close out our show here with our final weekly segment, which is our college football pick'em.
Over here.
Maddie has got, and as she's moving, I think it's only appropriate that you show Vols Picks your jersey. Some fans might be wondering.
So I obviously, if you know me and you follow my Twitter, I'm the biggest New England Patriots fan in the world. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but I'm a fan of our head coach. So I got his rookie jersey. Balls Picks somewhere. If you're out there and you're watching, which I'm sure you are because you've blocked us all, I hope you really like to see this because Jeremy, I'm sorry. I think that we're going to win a lot more than 3 games this year.
Yeah, let's hope so for many different reasons. But Maddie's got our awesome week 1 board here that we're going to pick the games. We're going to total it up and go throughout the year, and we'll see which 3 of us get the best record. So what we're going to do each week is we're going to do all the SEC games, and we're just going to pick the games. We're not going to go against the spread. We're not going to go what our scores are. We're just going to kind of, we don't want to get into too much math. We are ball fans, so we have not had to count very high since the Tyler Bray days when it comes to counting scores, unless it's the opponent, but we stop counting after it's double digit. We're going to do all the SEC games each week, and then we're going to pick some of the more kind of prime time or national games. So this week we've got 20 games. We've got 14 SEC and 6. So we'll start with the obvious one, which is the Bowling Green, Tennessee game, and we've all already picked Tennessee. So hopefully, with that being the first game played in this, hopefully we all start off 1-0. If not, we might not have a week 2 podcast. So rest in peace, Ball Walk Sports Talk, if that happens. All right, so we're just going to go down the list and start with the games that happened first. So our first game is Louisiana Monroe against Kentucky. Kentucky is 29.5-point favorites. So I'm gonna go with Kentucky.
Right, sorry, I had to write that down. Yeah, I too am going with Kentucky, and I'd say probably take the over on that one.
Yeah. All right. The next game is a 2:00 game that day. This is a barn burner. Rice against Arkansas. I know we're all going to be tuned into that. Arkansas is 19.5-point favorites. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to take Arkansas against Rice.
I too am going with Orky. They beat us last year, but that doesn't say much. But I think Sam Pittman's doing a better job than people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, I got to go with Arkansas as well. I don't see them losing to Rice by any means.
All right, moving on to the 3:30 ABC game, the Chick-fil-A kickoff, Alabama against Miami. Alabama is 18.5-point favorites. I do think this will be close at start, but I think the depth and talent of Alabama pushes it. I will take Bama, and I will take the over just barely, probably like a 42-21 victory or something like that, but I will take Alabama.
I agree 100%. Bama over for sure.
I'm going to take Alabama, but this reminded me of something I saw on Twitter. It's a Alabama diss track put out there by the @the Coach Coop. Definitely got to go check that out. It's pretty hilarious, but I'm still taking Alabama.
Shout out to Andy Bowser. I know you saw it and you thought it was hilarious. I'm waiting on you to do a Tennessee win, please.
Yes, just stop trying to slide in my DMs, man. Don't want to talk to you. All right. Our next one is Louisiana Tech against Mississippi State. Mississippi State is 23.5-point favorites. It's going to be hard not to go against the air raid, so I'm going to go with Mississippi State. And I'm going to say that they cover by a lot. I'm going to say they win by at least 30 plus.
I'm too going with Mississippi State, but I'm not going to bet an over or under there because we all thought that last year the air raid was going to be unstoppable, and it blew up in their face. So hopefully, I love Coach Leach. I hope he gets it together a year too.
I'm not the biggest La Tech follower. I remember a couple years ago they had a pretty decent season. So when I was looking up the spreads for these games, I expected that spread to be a little closer. I don't know what's going on down there, but I think Mississippi State's definitely gonna lay it on them in week 1. There, I'm going with them.
All right. Our next game is a little bit probably the closest one we've had as far as spread. Central Michigan against Missouri. Missouri is 13.5-point favorites. I think Missouri will struggle, but I think Missouri will pull it out, but I might go with the under on that one. But I'm going to go with Missouri maybe by about 8 or 9.
I'm also going with Mizzou. I really want to see what they're looking like this year because they're always, I don't know if y'all agree with this or not, every single year I feel like they're just the most unknown team. Like you really never know what you're going to get, and it changes with them game by game throughout the year too. So I'm really anxious to see what we're going to be working with this year.
Yeah, last year you kind of saw Missouri 2 tails of the season. They finally started finding their offense a little bit when they changed quarterbacks, which our former coach would have done something similar. But I don't look for Missouri to really build on what we saw on the offensive side for them last year. I think they'll kind of plateau a little bit, and I've seen quite a few accounts, hyping them up, and even ESPN, they're getting some airtime on there with Bazelak. Will he be a top 5 SEC quarterback this season? I'm not sure, but I do think they'll edge out Central Michigan.
All right. So right now, I think we've yet to pick against each other. I don't know if that's going to change.
Yeah.
I think it will eventually change. I don't know if it's going to change right here, though. Akron against Auburn. Auburn is a whopping 37-point favorites, and I'm gonna take Auburn in a blowout.
I'm taking Auburn, but I'm also going to take the under on that one. I think that's just an insanely high spread.
Yeah, I'll take Auburn. I think they're going to struggle this season. Bo Nix, also another SEC quarterback that gets a lot of hype that I just don't know that he'll ever live up to it. He had some flashes as a freshman, but again, I think he's just one of those quarterbacks that's kind of plateaued.
All right. So the next one, I'm not seeing a spread. There may not be one for this, but we have Eastern Illinois against South Carolina. Eastern Illinois just had a barn burner loss to Indiana State, 26-21. So they have played a game. So they've got some game action coming into this. Unfortunately, I think they're a pretty bad team. I think South Carolina is, but I think Little Beamer gets the job done here and starts off 1-0. So I'm going to go with South Carolina, but as Corso would say, closer than the experts think.
I too agree with that. I think South Carolina, but I also think both teams are walking garbage. So we'll see.
Not so. No, I'm just kidding. I had to throw in the Corso there. No, South Carolina. I don't really know what to expect out of them. I don't expect them to be very good, but I don't know what to expect from that coaching staff when they're playing inferior opponents. I'll take them to win just because Eastern Illinois should not be anywhere in the same stratosphere as a program like South Carolina. but definitely early on in that game, I'll be keeping an eye on it.
And then, in the words of South Carolina great Lou Holtz, oh, just kidding. Yeah, I've got a nice story that he came to the school that I used to teach at to speak years ago, and some of the older teachers told me that he was coming to speak for a Christian event, and he was so drunk before he got there they had to sober him up in the showers. So Lou was had a little bit too much Jack that day, I think. So, but love listening to Lou Holtz. Just have no idea what he's saying. Him and Mark May together were some good times.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Now we're moving to maybe the best game of the week, the primetime ABC game, the Duke's Mayo Classic. We've got Georgia, number 5 Georgia against Clemson. Clemson is a favorite by a field goal. This one's going to be super tight. Clemson's got a new quarterback. They don't have their savior. I cannot pronounce the guy's last name. Maybe one of you guys can. It's not Lawrence. We will not talk about Trevor Lawrence on this podcast because of what happened with all of that. And we get reminded every time there's a Clemson game that we could have had him, and Higgins and Etienne and Rodgers. But I've been going back and forth. It might even change before Saturday, but we're locking it in here. I'm going to go with Georgia. I want to say, obviously they cover because they're the underdogs. I'm going to say Georgia by 10. I'm going to say Georgia by 10.
Well, I am going to say the exact opposite of you, DJ. I want to say it's pronounced ukulele. I think that's probably as close as any of us are going to get to it.
It's better than I could have done.
I really liked watching him play against Notre Dame last year. He showed me a lot, and Dabo's a great coach. Georgia, I don't know what's going on there culture-wise, but it seems they're having some issues with people like Turnage. We got Turnage over here. We saw Eric Gilbert's here, then he's there, then he's just, you don't know what's going on with the kid. I hope he works it all out. Great guy, talented guy. But they've also had quite a few injuries lately, so that's everything that I've read, that they've had just random guys going down, and it's people that they need. So I think that they are one injury away from being pretty middle of the pack, and that injury would be JT Daniels, obviously. So I'm going to go Clemson, and I'm taking Clemson by 10.
Yeah, I think that game's going to boil down to coaching, and I think in my opinion, I've seen enough of Kirby Smart to not trust him in the big games, especially early on in the season. Dabo's kind of been there, done that. Kirby's been on that big stage as well. I just think Dabo's had more experience, and even though he's got a new freshman quarterback coming in, well, I guess he's a sophomore, right? Okay, sophomore quarterback. First,
I don't know.
First year he's starting, and I'm still going to take Clemson. I think they win a close one. I'll say by 4.
All right, there's our first change, and honestly, I hope that's my first loss because I don't want Georgia to win. Don't like Clemson either, but it's the lesser of two evils. All right, so the next one we have is Florida Atlantic against Florida. As much as I want to make Florida go 0-12, Florida, by the way, is 24.5 point favorites, 24.5 there. So I'm going to say Florida wins, and I'm going to say they don't cover. I'm going to say that they win. I don't know if it'll be super close to the end. I just think that FAU stays around just long enough to make it interesting. But Florida gets like a late interception, pick 6 or something to push a 14-point lead to a 21 to kind of put it comfortable. So I'll go with Florida, but I'll take the under.
I agree with you, Adam. I'm taking Florida under. I'm going to be watching that game pretty intently so I can see kind of where they're at and really, really focus on the quarterbacking because that's what it's going to come down to this year.
Let us know if he throws the ball. If we see him throw, take a picture so we have proof.
Oh, I will. I'll let you know if Marco Wilson launches a shoe to the stratosphere too.
What do you think, Trey?
Florida's obviously going to win this game. They've been pretty bad ever since Lane's left, but I don't think that Florida's going to cover. Even though Florida Atlantic is notoriously bad at covering the spread. I'll take Florida and the under as well. I'm with you guys. I don't see a lot of points in that game. I just kind of, especially with Emory Jones, still don't know what you're going to get out of him. So yeah, I'll go with the under there as well.
All right, our next game is Kent State against number 6 Texas A&M. The Aggies are 29.5-point favorites. Pretty simple for me. I'm going to go Texas A&M. I'm going to say that they win by 40 plus.
Yeah, I'm going A&M and with the over as well.
Yep, Aggies.
All right, this one is interesting for me because it's kind of the local school. Being from Bristol, we've got ETSU right up the road against Vanderbilt. The closest school to me is probably King, where I graduated from. I tell everybody we've been undefeated for like almost 100 years because we haven't had a football team that long. But we were in the papers for defeating somebody like 200-0. So way back when, they just didn't know what the sport was, I guess. I follow ETSU a lot. Fulmer really is kind of helped build that program back when it first started, getting the football program up and going again. Was kind of their set-in athletic director a little bit, kind of, I don't know what his title was. ETSU is just not there. Vandy is not either, but Vandy is an SEC team. Vandy is they've got a little bit more of a better team than ETSU. So I don't see a spread on here. I guess it was not worth Vegas's time to pick this game. So I'm going to go Vanderbilt, and I'm going to say they, as much as I don't want to say this, I think they're going to handle ETSU pretty easily. I think it'll be probably 3 touchdowns or more. ETSU is good in what they're at, but they're not D1 level, competition against what they're going against, like a team like Vanderbilt. So I'm going to go Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm taking Vandy as well. I think it's going to be 2 touchdowns or less, though. I'm just not sold on Vandy. I'm not sold on Clark Lee. We'll see. But then again, just like Heupel, we haven't seen him coach a game as a head coach yet here. So we'll see. But I'm taking Vandy. I'm taking them by 2 touchdowns or less.
I would give almost anything to see ETSU upset Vanderbilt in week 1. That would be all. I mean, that would almost wash away all of the Pruitt stains he's left on my heart over the past years. So I think Vandy's going to take care of business there. Just ETSU, like you were saying, they're a good team to watch where they're at, at their level of competition. I don't know if they have enough to really stick around with Vanderbilt. So I'll go Vanderbilt by 24 or more.
All right, we move to a closer game here. LSU against UCLA in a Fox primetime game. LSU is 3.5-point favorites against UCLA. UCLA, some of us probably tuned in, desperate for football. Just kind of slaughtered Hawaii 44-10. Had a good rushing game there, over 100 yards. I'm going to say Go Tigers takes this one, and I'm going to say they cover the spread. I'm going to say it's going to be close, but I'm going to go LSU and the over.
I've got LSU with a late touchdown. So LSU by 7.
I agree. I think LSU is going to win that game. I think it's going to be closer than nationally what a lot of people think it will be, given LSU's ranking. And I doubt, just judged on the crowd for that UCLA game, a lot of people actually watched their game against Hawaii, but they're actually really impressive. And, the other aspect of that is LSU, all they're dealing with down there on the bayou with Hurricane Ida.
All right. see here. So now we've got, see, our next game here is going to be our Monday night game. And that is going to be Louisville against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 9.5-point favorites in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. I'm going to say Kiffin gets off to a nice start this year. I'm going to say Ole Miss, and they cover the spread.
I'm saying Ole Miss as well. Take the over.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game to watch. Those two offenses, they like to really get vertical. I have a friend who's a huge Louisville fan, so I'm sure he'll appreciate me picking Lane Kiffin to lay the smackdown on him in week 1. But I just don't know how you would pick against Ole Miss in that game. Better quarterback, better coach, in my opinion. Even though Satterfield's that was a good hire by Louisville, I just think that Ole Miss will roll them in the second half.
All right, so that finishes our SEC games. That was 14, and we're going to make it an even 20. So now we're just going to move to our last 6 before we end our podcast here. So the first one we have is another Thursday night game. None of us will be watching that because we'll be watching the Vols. But we've got Ohio State against Minnesota. Ohio State is 13.5-point favorites. We've seen some scary things out of Minnesota a little bit with the, what is it, row the oar or paddle the oar, they always say. So I think Ohio State handles them. I think I'm going to take the over, but I'm going to go with 14. I'm going to say it's just above the 13.5. Ohio State wins by 14.
Well, this one is for all my Ohio State friends out there. What I'm doing here, I am rowing the boat, baby. Give me the bold pick of the week, Minnesota. They've got one of the best running backs I've seen in a while. I think he's going to be pretty electric, and Ole Miss is pretty much restarting on offense again. I mean, not Ole Miss, sorry. Ohio State's restarting on offense again. Granted, they have plenty of 5 stars to choose from, but I'm going with the experience in Minnesota here.
Outside of Clemson, Georgia, I think this might be the most intriguing matchup of week 1. I still think that Ohio State will handle business. Minnesota is definitely going to be able to hang in there throughout most of the game with their experience, like Maddie said. But I just think, again, I think a lot of these games in week 1, it's who has the better coach, the better quarterback, and I think Ohio State has the better coach there, so I'll take them in a close one.
All right, we move on to a Friday night game. We have North Carolina, 10th ranked against unranked Virginia Tech. North Carolina is 5.5-point favorites. I know for Trey and I being kind of in the Southwest Virginia area, Tech and Tennessee are kind of big rivals when it comes to choosing their teams, because UVA is usually irrelevant in a lot of things, and nobody cares about Vandy. So I follow Tech a little bit. Right now, they sound a lot like we have. Get rid of Fuente. I think he's gone at the end of this year. I don't suspect Virginia Tech having a great year. Not a horrible year, but they always have trouble with Pitt, who we're playing this year. So everybody's saying, watch out for Pitt. And I'm like, I know they're not bad, but they always have Tech's number. I think Mac Brown and UNC is just too much to handle for them. We may get to see our old Vol running back Ty Chandler there for North Carolina. I think they've done solid job recruiting. Mac Brown is a heck of a coach. I don't care what anybody says. I know we kind of hate Texas, and we are the real UT. If it wasn't for us, there would be no Texas. But I think Mac Brown is, and we talked about coaching a lot. I don't think Fuente is. I'm sorry if this offends Tech fans. I think he's a Pruitt. I think he's in over his head. I know he had experience at Memphis before. Tech is not Memphis. I just think he doesn't know how to micromanage. He could be a very successful, lower tier coach or an offensive coordinator for a high program. I just don't think he's a great head coach. That's nothing against Tech, but I think Tech fans would agree with me. I'm going to take UNC. I'm going to say it's not close. I really am. I'm going to say it's a 3-touchdown victory for North Carolina. I think they blow them out of the water.
I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be very close at all. UNC has looked really good to me. Last year, they finished the season strong. Matt Brown, like you said, heck of a coach. One of my favorite coaches to watch when I was younger. Seeing what he did at Texas, phenomenal. And he's made UNC actually something to where people in North Carolina aren't just looking to go to, hey, Tennessee, Florida State, Clemson. They're actually giving them a look for once. And I really like that. I've heard Ty Chandler had a great spring. I hope he has a great game.
Yeah, I agree. I have another friend, obviously, he's a Virginia Tech graduate, and he told me last season. I won't name his name, but he told me last season that he would rather have Butch Jones.
Oh God.
And that's how you know it's bad. I was like, oh man, that's rough. I was like, I feel for you, man. Been there, done that. Glad we got rid of ours. But Sam Howell and Mac Brown, along with all the other talent that North Carolina's brought in and sustained since Mac got there, I think it's just going to be way too much, even in a rowdy crowd. I also, for all you sports bettors out there, Sam Howell, in my opinion, has the best odds to win the Heisman. I think he has the 4th best odds, but if you look at it, North Carolina really has the best schedule out of all the Heisman favorites. They have the easiest schedule and really the easiest conference out of those guys, other than obviously Clemson's quarterback, but they're in the same conference. So there you go. Taking North Carolina probably by, I'll say 17.
All right. Moving on to another pretty big game of top 20 teams, Penn State against Wisconsin. Wisconsin is 4.5-point favorites. For some reason, Penn State seems to get a lot of those 12 o'clock Fox games. It just seems like to me, part of me wants to pick Penn State, but I'm going to go with Wisconsin for 2 reasons. One is it is not at Penn State. I love the Vols tradition. I think right up there is the all white. I mean, it's a sick thing to watch. I would love to be a part of it. We've got a local kid, I think from Richlands, who's their kicker. I guess he's starting for him this year if he's there at Penn State. Don't really follow special teams at other schools much. Don't even at our school very much either. But I think that's the first reason is it's not at home. It's at Wisconsin, and it's a day game. I think I can add that in as a second. And the third would be I'm blocked on Twitter by James Franklin for some comments that I said when he was the Vanderbilt coach. I did not tweet out the inappropriate pictures that people edited of James Franklin, but I did say something negative to him on Twitter a while back. And so since he did that, we're going with Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, 4.5, I'll say they cover by a touchdown.
I agree. I think Wisconsin, I think they cover. Madison, Wisconsin is an insane environment, and putting them at a 12 o'clock kickoff, everybody in that stadium is going to be blackout drunk by 9 o'clock. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Wisconsin last year. I don't know if it's just because, like you guys are saying, they play at noon all the time or what it is, but it seems like every Wisconsin game that was on last season I watched. But they got some big boys on offense and defense up front and at their skill positions. They're tall, they're strong. I mean, they're when that ball snapped, like it's crazy. Like it's almost like they're built like an old school SEC team. But yeah, I think that's what's going to end up pulling it out for them late in the game. They're just going to have too much for Penn State to handle. Those runs are really going to add up. on those linebackers and that D line. And I think Wisconsin. I think they win by a touchdown as well.
All right, getting down to just a few games left. The next one is another top 20 matchup. We've got Indiana headed to Iowa, 17 versus 18. Iowa is a 3-point favorite. It is a 3:30 Saturday game. We've seen both of these teams in recent years in bowl games, them against each other. I don't know if it's going to be a very exciting game. It's two teams who know what they want to do, and they're going to stick to it. As much as I want to go with Iowa as the favorite and their awesome tradition of waving up to the Children's Hospital window, I think Indiana rolls in and takes it. So I'm going to pick Indiana in a small little upset against Iowa.
I'm going Iowa. I really have always liked watching that program, and just their linemen are massive, and they're all farm dudes, and I love that for them. So give me Iowa.
So I'll be honest, I don't really know a lot about either of these teams, what they have returning. I know that Iowa's had some controversy over the offseason and before last season, actually, with their strength and conditioning coach. Not really sure how that played out, but I'm taking Iowa for two reasons. One, shout out Coach Pfizer, my wrestling coach. He graduated from Iowa. And two, the Children's Hospital pregame celebration. That's just really, really cool. So I'll take them in a close one.
All right, moving on to another top 25 matchup. We've got Louisiana, 23rd ranked. It might surprise some people that they're there, the Raging Cajuns, facing off against 21 Texas. Texas is an 8-point favorite. It is at Texas. It's a 4:30 game. I'm going to go, as much as I hate to, I'm going to go with the fake UT, and I'm going to say that they do cover and win by 13.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to pick Texas as well. Just they're at home. I really want to see what Sark's going to do, because the program, a lot of question marks. We have no idea what's going to happen with them. So I'm going with Texas.
So I'm also going to go with Texas, but maybe something to keep your eye on if fans are normally in the right on their their opinions. A lot of Texas fans are mad that Texas actually just recently named Hudson Card as their starting quarterback, and they are mad online. They did not like that he was named their starting quarterback. So I don't know if that's any indication for anything at all, but I guess that's why they play the game. So maybe something to keep an eye on in that week 1 matchup against Louisiana Lafayette.
All right, and it brings us to our final game. It's going to be on Sunday night at September the 5th. It's going to be at 7:30, and that is Notre Dame, 9th ranked, against Florida State. Notre Dame is a 7.5-point favorite. We have talked a little bit before this about fake Notre Dame, and I'm sure Maddie will go into detail about that and her hatred of Notre Dame. I think any SEC fan should be able to agree with that, to get in and not play much of anybody except one team, and usually that's the team you lose to. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins. Florida State is not Florida State that we know them as. Not Florida State of, the 2000s or when we, right down the field, Peerless priced them. But I'm going to go Notre Dame. I'm going to say they cover and they win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, like you were saying about my hatred for Notre Dame, so let me just kind of go off on my tangent real quick. Dad, this is for you. I do not agree with them being put in the playoff or even put in contention to, like, why are they even in the discussion every year? Who do they play? They play a USC program that's not USC anymore. They play what Dad calls the Armed Forces Conference, which is the Army, Navy, Air Force of the world. I mean, if Tennessee was in that same boat and they were independent, we would be there every year. And we're not the best program right now, but I mean, we would be able to win the same amount amount of games as them. So I think that in order to be put in the playoff, you should play in a conference. I think that the NCAA should just lay down that rule and say, look, it's not fair. Because if Notre Dame wanted to do this every year, they can rig their schedule just enough. And that's why we've seen them. I'm sick of it. It's annoying, and they always get blown out, no matter who they play. So they don't belong. But unfortunately, I have to pick them. I wish I could say that it's going to be close. I don't think Mike Norvell's the guy at Florida State. I've never been a fan of him, never been too big on him. Just don't think he's running that program where it needs to go. So Notre Dame.
So maybe the most interesting thing about that game, to me anyways, is Florida State's quarterbacks and their names. You got Chubba Purdy, Tate Rodemaker, and Mackenzie Milton. Those are some pretty good quarterback names. But Mackenzie Milton, he's transferring up from UCF to Florida State. So that might be kind of intriguing, something about that, just one little nugget on that game that might be kind of cool to keep your eye on, see how he does under Mike Norvell. But I got to take Notre Dame in a close one. Not a big fan of them. Don't think they deserve any recognition that they get nowadays. But, it is what it is. Make them join a conference and then we'll talk. But, yeah, I'll take Notre Dame.
All right. Well, we will check these next week. We might have a few games that happen after. We'd like to thank Maddie for the awesome board and being our Vanna White for this, but we'll check those out next week, and we'll throughout the week we'll talk about the games we want to do in week 2, and I'm sure we'll have an idea now, but that'll change throughout the year as we get some teams in the top 25 that shouldn't be, or some teams that we thought were going to be good that aren't. But as we leave, we thank you guys for joining us for our first podcast. I'm going to let each one kind of give a closing thought if they want to. I would like to say, we mentioned it earlier with the hurricane. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that's affected by that. Hopefully we can bind together and reports where it could be as bad as Katrina. I think it's today or yesterday was the 16th anniversary of Katrina. So we hope that this one is not as bad and devastating. We also want to mention the flooding that happened in Tennessee. I put something on Twitter earlier this week. If we can get the word out and find you any help or anything like that, if you've lost your home or lost anything, we'll try to see. We know Vol Nation, Vol Twitter is a powerful thing. We can try to get a GoFundMe. We can try to help out if you've been affected by that. And lastly, we've had some people in our group chats, former Marines, former armed forces. We've had a tough week with that. Lost one of Knoxville's own. It's been a tough week for our country, and a tough week for those who have served, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and friends and communities of those affected. We will always be a proud Vol Nation will be proud of those who serve and those who can further and help our country, no matter who's in office. And we promise not to get political or anything on here, but I think we can all agree that those families definitely need our thoughts and prayers. So as we leave, is there anything else you guys want to add? Anything you want to say?
Just make sure the next time you see a service member, thank them for all that they do, because they really do love this country. And I know that I saw something kind of negative on Twitter where someone had said something about, oh, well, they signed up for war. They knew that this could happen. Not necessarily the way they went out. So just pray for all those families involved directly and all service members, because like you said, one thing that John was saying in our group chat was it feels like he lost family members. So I can't imagine what their families are going through. So just God be with them. God be with America. Go Vols.
So I'd like to add, let's try not to tie, one tragedy to another. I've seen some people trying to connect, posting about what's going on in Afghanistan, but also maybe having a certain view on COVID. And maybe you're not allowed to view one thing one way if you view another a different. And I just, as a community, as a country, as as fellow volunteers. I just think we need to try to not, try to let everyone have a voice and an opinion on things, and maybe feel the way they do, and be able to voice those if they're hurting, and just kind of try to stand with everybody who's feeling some type of way about many of the things that are going on in this country currently. And yeah, other than that, if you have tickets, you're able to make the trip up to Knoxville. Show up, be loud, and go Vols.
If you're listening to us and you want to follow us on Twitter, Sawyer is Sawyer T. That's Tee, like the quarterback. Smith, Sawyer T. Smith on Twitter. And Maddie's is Can't Guard Mads, Madds, all together, lowercase. And my account is the Sidelines Tennessee account. That is at SSN_Tennessee. We'd love to interact with you. Give us comments. Don't pull Vols picks and hate on us. We're just Vol fans who we've talked about it. We've been Vol fans all of our life, and we're just passionate about it. We know there's things we're going to get incorrect. We know there's things that we're going to say that people are going to say that's not right. Be nice, reach out, hit us up, let us know what you want to hear about, what you like and don't like. And this is for you all. This is just us getting together. We would probably do this even if we didn't post it, just to get to talk. And I've had a great time. I'm sure they have as well. We will let you know on Twitter what on the Sidelines account what different places this will be on. So make sure you're out there and looking for that, whichever way you listen or watch. We'll be there on your phones, tablets, TVs, whatever, for as long as you'll welcome us. But we thank you guys, and go Vols.